All right, TikTok. We need to have a conversation about accountability. It seems like this word is being used as a blame word. And it's like the central idea of this massive blame game between men and women. Okay? So let's talk about accountability really quick, just so we all know what the word means. It's really simple. Accountability is when you admit what you did to contribute to a problem in your life. That's what it is. You admit you're part of it. You say, you know what? Here's where I made my mistake in contributing to this issue. It doesn't mean that 100% of the mistake was yours. There's a lot of times another willing participant or unwilling participant or whatever, but you have to be able to admit what you did to create the circumstance that you are in, right? You did something too. And accountability is when you say, this is what I did to contribute to the problem that I am having, or this is what I have done to contribute to this problem we see. Accountability is that. That's different than responsibility, okay? Let's talk about responsibility. Taking responsibility for something is when you have come up with something you're willing to do about what you are accountable for. And then you take on the responsibility of contributing towards making amends or actually fixing the problem. Sometimes the problem is fixable, which in our community, I believe the problem we're having is fixable, right? But it's going to take accountability and responsibility. Accountability, again, is saying, I know what I have done or what I am doing to cause this problem. I accept what I am doing to cause this problem, what I personally have done to cause this problem. And then I'm willing to take responsibility, which means I'm willing to take on the responsibility of an action of some sort to address this thing that I am accountable for. So it's going to take accountability and responsibility. So when men are talking to women about the out of wedlock childbirth rate, and the women take on a victim status, victim means that this is something that was done to me. I didn't have a choice. My agency was removed from whether or not I had babies with a man who wasn't taking care of other babies that he had with other women that he didn't marry. That doesn't compute to men. And so that's why we're like, oh, women are zero accountability. That's why we're saying it. Does that make more sense now? Right? So let's start having a meaningful dialogue instead of the blame game and the pointing and stuff like that. There are things that the guys are doing that's wrong. There's a sector of men that are wrong. There's a way that the men who haven't made this mistake are communicating. And it doesn't seem to be penetrating to the women because I believe that there is a real disconnect in like the basic tenets of how reality works on maybe both the men's side and the women's side. So let's establish some ground rules. Let's establish at least agreeing upon reality so we can work on what the solution might be, right? So victim status is a crazy thing that people do when they refuse to take any accountability for their outcome and they refuse to take any responsibility for fixing that outcome. They say, you know, when you have a victim status, it's typically three things that are present that you can point out in the mindset of the person that takes on the victim role. One is awareness, self-awareness. They really don't see how their behavior, their choices, their presentation is affecting the way people view them or how people treat them. They say, you know, well, they're doing this because they're white supremacists. It has nothing to do with me being combative, loud, disagreeable. It's got nothing to do with that. They don't like me because I'm black, right? So that's a low level of awareness, right? Then you have accountability, which we just discussed, which is where you need to see what you've done to contribute to the things you don't like in your own life, right? Where did you make your mistake? Without blaming the other person, just what did I do? What did I do? Right? How did I end up engaging and creating this environment, right? Engaging in and creating this environment. And then responsibility, a lack of responsibility, an unwillingness to do anything about anything that you might be accountable for to rectify the situation. So when you have awareness and you have accountability and you have responsibility, you can fix almost any problem in your life. Almost anyone. Most of the major issues of your life, you can fix them if you're willing to see how what you're doing to contribute to them, right? You're willing to take responsibility for what you're doing, right? And you admit that there's something you've done, right? Then you can fix it. You can stop doing it and then actually take responsibility and do something that corrects the issue altogether. So important. This is such an important thing. And I think it escapes most people because a lot of us were raised without dads. So we really don't get these basic tenets that set up how reality works for most other people and why they have better outcomes. Because there's a constant excuse within our community because of racism and the past of, 60 years of apartheid that went on after segregation ended. And then the 100 years of apartheid that happened after slavery ended. And then obviously there were the hundreds of years of enslavement. And so you've got black folks who say, you know what? This is the reason that I had sex with Pookie and had a child outside of wedlock. Or this is the reason that I'm a Pookie. It doesn't have to do with my individual family unit or my choices. We're going to blame the system. And I'm not saying the system's perfect. I'm not saying the system isn't set up against us. I'm not saying any of that. You're not getting any of that from me, okay? I'm not saying that, all right? Because I do recognize and accept that the system in a lot of ways has been weaponized against the people of color in this country, okay? But I'm saying that you and me aren't going to fix that system when we don't have any peace between us. And we don't have to fix the whole system. We just got to deal with the way that it treats us. But we're not going to get there when you and I can't cooperate like the other communities do. We don't need to figure out a new way to be together. We can do the same thing everybody's been doing for 100 million years. You look at these other cultures, Arab, Asian, Indian, you look at the Jewish folks, you look at how strong their community is, how the money circulates within the community, they do business with each other, they're starting business together, they have families. Like, did you know that Jews are like, a lot of them, they're completely focused on replacing the 6 million Jews that were lost in the Holocaust? That there's an entire, cultural narrative inside of their group to replace those 6 million lives. Did you know that? And they really focus on trying to get that done. They have as many kids as they possibly can. Like, they are not playing. Their culture is set up where they control the narrative about their culture completely in the media. Like, if you say anything that's anti-Semitic, you are getting shut down, right? In addition to having control of their own cultural image, they have control of their money. Shit, they got control of the world's money, right? And that's because of the strength of their community. It's because husbands and wives and family, they get together, they get married, they stay married. They have a duty that they feel to their culture and to their community. It's just not all about their own individual happiness. As a group, I mean, you got Jewish folks that are like anybody else that are doing everything else that we're all doing. But as a community, as a culture, their internal cultural narrative is focused on just moving them forward as a group. And that we could have something better than what we got, I mean, we don't have to be as extreme as them, but we can have something much better than what we got. But it's going to take some self-awareness. It's going to take accountability, and it's going to take some personal responsibility, some action.